All right. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Town of Queensbury Planning Board meeting for Tuesday, October 27th, 2020. This is our second meeting for the month of October, our 15th meeting thus far in 2020, and our 11th meeting under the COVID-19
pandemic
environment. Observe that we have illuminated exit lights in the room. If we have an emergency, that is your emergency exit. If you have an electronic device, a cell phone or other device that has a ringer or something, please turn it off or turn the ringer off so that it will not interrupt our meeting. Those of you that are coming up to address the board on the podium, if you would take, when you're done, if you would take one of the cleaning wipes provided and clean the microphone off for the next speaker, we would appreciate it. And I want to let folks know that are viewing these proceedings by the town YouTube site that we will have a couple of items of public hearing this evening. And if you wish to comment on those, you should be prepared to call area code 518-761-8225, and that will be the line into this meeting for the public hearing segment, and I will repeat that number as we get to that point. I also want to let folks know for public hearing purposes that there are three items under old business this evening that we anticipate offering a tabling motion, and that is Paganowski, Site Plan 42-2020, Godnick, Site Plan 49-2020, and Prenderville, Site Plan 48-2020. So if you are interested in making comment on that, you should be aware that should we table those items as anticipated, we will be opening the public hearing. We will leave it open, and you will have an opportunity to comment when the applicant returns. And there may be the potential that there may be changes to their plan, so be aware of that. And with that, we have one administrative item this evening, which is Site Plan PZ 230-2016 for Legacy Land Holdings, a request for a one-year extension to their site plan approval. And I understand we have Tommy, you're here this evening to speak about this item. I do want to take a moment to explain, we have a bit of housekeeping to do on this item this evening. We looked at this, as the board is aware, last week, and we entertained a motion to approve the one-year extension, which failed. And it's very unusual for us to have, it's not unusual for us to have requests for extensions. It's actually fairly routine. Although to have requests for this length of time or over this period of time is a bit unusual. We've actually had some earlier this year that have gone on long enough that when we granted the last extension, the applicant was warned that this may very well be the last extension that they receive. So for that reason, when the request for approval of an extension was not approved by the board, I think everyone left with the understanding that the approval was not, the one-year extension was not going through. However, because the approval doesn't expire until next month, and we were told that there was a new administration that the applicant had that you wanted to present this evening, we will listen to your presentation again. And because we had a motion to approve last month, which was defeated, I anticipate we will begin after your presentation with a motion to deny this week. And should that fail, then we will entertain another motion to approve. That way we will have covered ourselves either way. With that, I open it up to your presentation.
Is that a yes or a no?
Good evening. My name is Tom Jarrett of Jarrett Engineers. With me tonight is Mike Borges and Dan Valenti. We were not here last week, so we apologize. We may not understand exactly what the dialogue was last week, but we do understand there may be some confusion, and certainly you've expressed some concern on the board's level. We understand the concern, and I hope to straighten out the confusion. This subdivision was first approved in 2007, and it was designed as a professional office subdivision. Dan fully intended, and he can explain, he can even contradict me if he wishes, but he fully intended to fill the subdivision out with office, professional offices. But right after the approval, we had the 08-09 recession, and that essentially killed office demand around this area. And we'll get into COVID in a minute, but that has just basically wiped it out for this year and maybe for the foreseeable future. A couple of other extenuating circumstances are that, at least one is that the sewer issue, joining the Queensbury Sewer District, was an issue for the first 3 years after approval. We really didn't clear that issue up until last year. Possibly we could have developed during that period, but it was still outstanding, and the wastewater department was not ready to grant us a connection for these sewers from this project for Fairfield until last year. So we lost 3 years, and there were very good reasons for the first 3 extensions. So we understand your concern regarding extensions that are unwarranted. We think we have very good reasons for those extensions. The market, the sewer issue, and now, you know, COVID has basically put a damper on everything. So for those reasons, we would ask for 1 more year. We understand that if we get 1 more year, that's probably it. That we would not go to the well again. So that's the summary that I'd like to present. I don't know if Mike or Dan would like to add something.
Well, if I could just ask on your comments, you mentioned the issues with the sewer system being delayed. How was it you were able to sell the lots that you did back in 2007?
It was under a prior director of wastewater. And when Chris Harrington took over, he had some questions regarding how this system should be administered, and stopped everything until we cleared that up. You know, and the former director even weighed in, but that didn't resolve the problem until last year. Mike had to work with the town attorney to resolve it.
Without belaboring the point, there was also a transition where 1 year Bob Hafner was not town attorney, and that kind of fell in the midst of this too. When we worked it out last year, we understood that we don't need a transportation corporation for the sewer because we have the association of owners already in place from the early days in 2007. It's all cleared up. I thought we were home free. And then COVID struck and kind of killed the market. I can tell you from a financing standpoint, for the last 9 months, lenders have not wanted to touch anything. They're just starting to come back into it. Developers are just starting to come back to the market. I met with one today who was looking to come out of the capital region and start looking at investments up here. So we think we're on the cusp of being able to get this done. We've just been delayed by those issues before. So we're asking for 1 final year extension. If we can receive that from the board, we understand if this is the final year and the board wants to make that very clear, we're prepared to accept that.
Well, let me clarify on that, because should you receive a 1-year extension tonight, you're still welcome to come back after a year and ask for another extension. I'm just saying that from our experience, and typically we don't have extensions for year after year after year after year. I mean, it's not unusual that for some of the reasons you mentioned, and especially this year, I was chatting with Laura before the meeting, and there have been a number of them that we believe are being presented as COVID related. So there has been an increase recently because of the COVID issue. But it's not up to me whether you get an extension a year from now or not. I'm just saying that there is increasing concern and resistance to that when it goes on with the same plan. It's one thing if you say, you know, we're going to come back with a modification, because as you have done with this property over the years, because we see that this is just not going to work the way we envisioned it way back when we first got the approval. But anyway, I go on and on, but I'm not here to say that you cannot automatically get an approval. I'm just saying that, you know, we've had our discussion for this extension, and bear that in mind should you decide to come back for another.
Thank you for that clarification.
Appreciate
Yeah.
that. Understand.
We understand the board's concerns.
I'm just going to let Dan add a 2 cents about his family's history with the project too, to give a fuller. I can summarize it if you
No, we'll
want.
be here all.
It goes back 40 years, whether he wants to go detail.
Wow.
No, we'll be here all, it's a long history. No, I was concerned based on, I know Bob Sears was here last week, and he's really sounded like there was a lot of confusion between the professional office push and this request for the senior housing extension.
Well,
Obviously, the professional office park is what it is. I
Yeah.
wish it was different, because obviously, like, we could have done something else. We're restricted on the setback with the Bay Road corridor guidelines. At this point, we're kind of handcuffed to
Yeah.
be able to do anything else. So I would love to see some changes, so maybe we could be a little more, if we had a few more units, it would become more cost-effective to develop. It's really on the cusp, right?
Yeah, well, that was one of the things I was actually kind of wondering, if you could, as a sort of thought experiment, if you could change the site plan that you have now, is that something that you would do?
If,
order to
if the
solve
zoning would,
some of
if the zoning would allow us to do other than what we have approved, we would be more than open to
Would you
doing that.
clarify what you mean by changing the site plan, you mean more units?
Well, that would be up to you. I'm just saying
I
that,
don't know what you mean by.
one of my
changing the site-
concerns last week was what I heard over and over again was this isn't selling, it's not gonna work, it's not appropriate any longer for a variety of reasons for what we're doing. And it made me think, maybe you should just come back and modify your plans for the property in order to resolve those issues. It wasn't simply, I mean, we have a lot of requests for extensions, for example, because of perhaps utilities or negotiations with a neighbor, or, even sometimes there's issues with clarifying the deed or marking the property lines, that type of thing. But in this case, what I heard, and again, I'm not speaking for the entire board, but what I was hearing was, this just isn't working. Things like, and I have the thing here, it says that for over 10 years, it's been marketed, and only 2 of the lots have been sold. So that, when I heard that, I thought, well, what's the point
That's the
of going another?
professional office part.
Yeah, the professional office park.
Yeah.
That's what the town wants there.
Yeah, and we're handcuffed, like I said, if we'd be willing to look at doing other things there to expand it. As the 27 unit is, like I said, as on the cusp, as things change in the market, as senior demand continues to rise. Of course, with the COVID thing, the price of materials have gone through the roof, so that's shelved some projects. So that works against us, but there's X amount of dollars that gotta go into the building, and if you don't have enough units, it doesn't justify it. So we're on the cusp, and unless market conditions change, unless we can get some additional units, it may work, it may not. We've had some interest the past couple months, but it takes time to develop this stuff. And in all honesty, in the developer world, it took through a better part of 3 years to clear up a situation with the town of Queensbury, who gave me the approval. And, I shouldn't, honestly, I didn't think I should have even had to ask for the extension. They should have given it to me because it was a self-created issue by the town.
Self-created, meaning town-created issue.
Town created
Yeah.
issue. So,
Well, for us, it's
I've
just
been
a
here
process
every year spending money to ask for requests, and I understand it's year over year, but we got it resolved, so we want to move on. And I'm hopeful that there's some light at the end of the tunnel here. I honestly don't.
As are we,
Yeah,
certainly. Yeah.
and
For us, this is the issue of having to come in and request an extension is a process issue.
Yep.
We approve the plan that you have now, which expires next month. So it's not the plan, but the reasons given last month, I think, led some to believe that it wasn't viable, and it was better to replan the
I'm glad
project.
you clarified that confusion, because it's the offices that are not working.
Yeah, and like I said, we're on the cusp with the units that we have.
Okay,
It's the market is becoming a little more favorable. We're getting more interest. So, if they can get higher rents, then it can justify
yeah. Well, it's just speculation, but I would think that as we come out of this COVID thing, there would be some economic development funds that might be available that could have an impact over the.
hope.
Yeah, indeed.
Just to clarify, before 2014, and I had to correct this, Laura corrected me today, that zone, multifamily was allowed indiscriminately right up to Bay Road. It was discouraged, but it was allowed. And in 2014, It went to 300 feet, 2016 it went to 600 feet, which clamped everything down.
Yeah,
Made it,
and that's why we're handcuffed at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So unless there's a, change in those guidelines.
Well, and again, it's not our project, it's your project, but I would suggest if you want to brainstorm, if you talk to the planning department, they're very expert and be glad to help.
well, we are brainstorming internally, and we're trying to find a way to make this work too. We just would like a little more time, and if you can see your way through to do that, I understand a lot of concern was generated, and you don't want to set a precedent for unwarranted extensions, but we hope you would reconsider.
Understood. All right, questions, comments from members of the board?
Yes. Go ahead, Jen, you go first.
You started to talk about some positives over the next year. You're on the cusp. You've had some phone calls, maybe a grant application to the state. Could you elaborate a little bit on that? What positives can we look forward to over the next year?
All I can say is that we've had a couple of inquiries, one very serious, one I don't know how long it would take to get through because it's actually a government agency that's expressed interest in the project. And I think that could be a timely process to get through with them. And I don't want to disclose it, who they are, obviously, at this point, but so we've had some interest as of late, which is nice. At least, there's, again, a glimmer of hope to help move forward with something here.
And Mike, you saw a glimmer too.
Yeah, I can't reveal too much, but I met with a developer this afternoon with Jim Siplon from EDC, and he's out of Brooklyn. He's looking to the north. There's a tremendous demand. You might have seen it in the papers. I've seen it in my practice with the residential demand curve. There's not enough supply up here for available housing. Many of the people are coming here to retire here because it's a great place to live. And senior housing could be filling the need for those who are empty nesters looking to downsize and sell their properties. They need a place to live if they want to stay in the community. So this might be a suitable facility for them. And there's not a lot of that out there. So that's a very pressing need. I think there's going to be something that comes from this. So COVID's created the problem in a way, but it may also be providing a solution for us. We just do need that a little bit of additional time.
Right, thanks.
I would also add that if you have any way of trying to help or look at that area to change the zoning to some extent to get away from the office, because we're so handcuffed there, that's all we can virtually put there is professional office. And the COVID has exacerbated the lack of need for the offices. So if somebody can help,
Yeah,
we would encourage that,
sure.
Well, I'd like to bring up, Mike, thanks for bringing that up with Jim Shiplon, because I said that last week, because I sat in on economic growth, and this guy's bringing in some great energy. He's got some wonderful connections. He put together Just Water, and the town beat him up, the city beat him up, and he came in and he delivered, and he was an upbeat guy, and I'm really impressed with his speeches and going on. And I did bring this up last week to the board, that he's really got some things going on. I don't have a problem with all the circumstances. You've had a very unique project there, and like I said, your hands are tied with the professional part. I understand you've tried to do this with the building and back, and last week I didn't have a problem with it, so I am still gonna move forward this week with with an extension and invite you back next year too.
I guess Dan, you're probably gonna like what I have to say, because I remember, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. Years ago, I was watching the town board meeting, and you were sitting in that meeting, and they changed the zoning in the 600-foot setback. And it was very impactful, because I saw you pleading with the town board, and you were very distraught, and you looked at them and you directly said to them, "You took my retirement away." And that's a quote. And you worked so hard to get to what you were doing. And I feel that the town did you've been through a lot. I'm not gonna say disservice, but it's been hard on you. And I feel that if we're gonna promote growth in this town, and we cannot deny things that are just, should be done. So I just wanted to bring that up and let you know that we followed what you have done.
That's really nice of you to say that. I appreciate that.
Anyone else? Well, we did have, there was a very robust discussion last week with the applicant and members of the board, and since then, and I should tell you gentlemen, it has been a useful exercise for us because it motivated us to really look at our procedures. It's an unusual, as I said, it's an unusual situation because generally people ask for an extension and it's a very simple thing and very obvious, straightforward reasons, not involving, business plans and for sales and so on. So we ended up in a situation last week where a majority of the board denied the approval motion. But because you're still alive, if you will, until next month, we didn't deny the motion. And so we're, as I mentioned, as I started, we're going to try to clear that up tonight, in addition to giving you another opportunity to explain. So what we will do tonight is we will begin with a motion to deny, because that was the majority position of the board last week. And if that passes, then it's denied. If it fails, then we will rehear the motion to approve. So if we're ready to do that, let's proceed with that motion.
A motion to deny one-year extension for site plan PC 230-2016, Legacy Land Holdings.
Do we have a motion? Do we have a second?
I'll second it, but explain it again. If
Yeah,
we
please.
vote for the denial,
Are we to vote as we
That's
did
it.
last week, Steve?
that's it, we don't move forward.
Right.
If we deny it,
If-
then it's
Then
denied.
they don't get an extension. They would have to reapply.
Oh, then I'm gonna take back my second.
Okay.
Then and then.
You took away my opportunity, you know?
All right, so we have a motion made. Do we have a second?
I'm still not clear what we're doing here with this motion in advance of a possible, another motion.
I will try to explain. Last week, we had a majority of the board that was clearly in favor of denial of the extension.
Right.
I think everyone left the meeting. In fact, if you look at the minutes when they come out, you will see that after the vote was taken, I asked, does that mean this has been denied? And everybody said yes, or not everybody, but anyone who answered me said yes. And I think everyone who left felt that that was the status as we left it. But it turns out that that is incorrect, because it's an unusual, as I explained to the applicant, it's an unusual situation in that we very, very rarely deny requests for extension because it's generally routine. There were elements of this request which struck the majority of the board as not being routine and worthy of a rethinking of, or at least a reapplication, a rehearing of the entire site plan. So a majority denied it. But the end effect was not a pure denial, because we weren't we weren't approving a denial motion. We were denying an approval motion. So to clear
So
the
there was no
record,
action.
What?
There was no action. The motion failed, so there was no action by the board.
and I can clarify further in the sense that this is not most of the applications we hear are, nothing exists. They have a plan, they come in and they request an approval. If we deny that, then there's nothing that can happen because they don't have any approval to move forward. In this case, they have an approval and it hasn't expired yet. So, but by denying an extension, but not by, by not approving a motion to approve an extension, we haven't denied the extension, but they still don't have an approval. They're in limbo because they don't have an approval, but they also haven't been told it's denied either.
Unless
So
we
they're,
followed up right
Right.
after that.
Right.
Exactly.
We would have had to follow it.
that's right. And I wondered about that, which is why immediately after the vote, I said, does that mean that we have denied this moving forward? And I think that we,
I sandbagged on purpose. I purposely didn't say anything after that, so.
okay.
And-
Well,
Because I knew that we did not take action.
And in essence, we're following up with it now.
Yeah.
We're following up with it now
Now.
by doing a clean motion
Okay?
to deny, which was the position of the board the last time we discussed this
And This is a
application.
bookkeeping thing. We're trying to
Right,
clear
we're
up.
just trying to clarify the record. So
Yeah.
if the motion to deny the extension approves, then we will have denied it. If that motion fails, then we rehear an approval motion which failed last time and has an opportunity to pass this time.
We're supposed to vote the same way we did last week?
No.
No, John.
Vote however,
If you,
I mean,
if you
you've heard.
vote to
you have-
deny it, then you deny it. But if you say, if you deny it, and you give a no vote on this, then it's not denied. It's going, okay? So then we can go forward with the approval motion.
We have received new information and extended information, if you
Then
will.
why can't we just do an approval motion?
I'm sorry?
Why can't we just do, I mean, I'm ready to approve an extension. I was one of the no votes last week,
Okay.
so I have no idea what to do on this next resolution.
Well,
So don't say anything.
Yeah,
We have
don't
a
say anything. Don't
resolution,
even second the resolution.
Right, so.
we have a resolution that nobody
If
has
nobody
seconded
seconds it,
yet. So if nobody seconds it, then we're gonna go on to the new resolution.
Fine.
okay.
Makes no sense
It
to
is,
me.
it doesn't, John. It's,
We're here to
In many
confuse
ways
you,
that-
welcome
John.
to government, John.
In many
This is
ways, that
government.
serves, in many ways, that serves the same function, because we have brought up, a motion to deny has been brought up, and it did not pass.
It didn't pass.
So, just to clarify, am I not hearing a motion to second, or a second on the motion?
Correct.
All right, hearing none, then let's hear a motion to approve then.
Okay, here we go. Motion to approve a one-year extension for site plan PC 230, 2016, Legacy Land Holdings.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion to approve made and seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion? Karen, can you call the vote for us, please?
Mr. Dixon? Yes. Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. Hunsinger?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Mr. Valentine?
Yes.
Mr. Deeb?
Yes.
Mr. Faber?
Yes.
No offense, but I hope we don't see you next year.
Hey, Dan, I want you to file this in the scrapbook for that project, all right?
Good luck, Dan.
Thank you all.
Well,
Yeah, good luck over the next year.
See you later.
you did a good thing. Tom did a good thing. Tom
Oh,
Boyd.
my gosh.
We rectified something.
I'm with you. I never liked that
Well, that was easy enough.
buffer.
We're in the state of New York. You don't approve something, it's not
Robert's rules, too.
They didn't make it through variance.
only a lawyer.
I don't remember that, but,
No, it was.
yeah.
Yeah. All right, so for the benefit of the board and those watching us on the YouTube channel, we have 3 items that we're tabling tonight, and for clarity, we're going to address those next. So the first item is under old business is Bill Poganowski, site plan 42-2020. Laura?
Okay, so this application was tabled at the zoning board last month, so you would need to table this to the second planning board meeting in December.
Okay. That would be December 17, and I think we have a draft motion.
Yes, motion to table site plan 42, 2020, Bill Poganowski, to the December 17th, 2020 planning board meeting with submissions due by November 15th, 2020.
And let me remind myself as well as everyone that the public hearing is open on this application, although we won't be hearing it this evening. And when they return in December, the public hearing will remain open, so we'll be open to that. The next item is Jeffrey Godnick.
Wait a second.
Do you want a second?
I'll second it. We got a call.
Oh, we didn't do the motion.
Yeah.
I read it.
We read
The
it.
motion's already tonight.
I read it.
Yes. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Karen, can you call the vote for us, please?
Mr. Valentine?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. Hunsinger?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Mr. Dixon?
Yes.
Mr. Deeb?
Yes.
Mr. Faber?
Yes. All right, and the next item is Jeffrey Godnick, site plan 49-2020. Laura?
Again, this application was tabled at the zoning board meeting, and I would suggest tabling it to the second planning board meeting.
Okay, so again, we will open the public hearing on this application. We'll be tabling this, we anticipate, to the second meeting in December, which is the 17th. And there will be an opportunity for public comment at that time. So I believe we have a draft motion again.
Motion to table site plan 49-2020 Jeffrey Godnick, tabled until the December 17th, 2020 Planning Board meeting with submissions due by November 15th, 2020.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion on the tabling? Karen, can you call the vote for us, please?
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Mr. Valentine?
Yes.
Mr. Hunsinger?
Yes.
Mr. Dixon?
Yes.
Mr. Deeb?
Yes.
Mr. Traver?
Yes. Next, we have Mark Prenderville, site plan 48-2020. Laura?
This applicant has requested to be tabled to a December meeting. I would suggest you table it to the first planning board meeting.
Okay, that would be December 15. So likewise, we will open the public hearing on this application, but we will not be hearing the applicant this evening. When they return at the anticipated date of December 15, the public hearing will remain open. I think we have a draft motion.
Yeah, I have a question. Is it the 15th or the 17th?
Let me double check.
The other,
The 17th is Thursday.
well, then we have to change the other motion.
Why is that?
Yeah, the first meeting is the 15th, so this would
We
be,
got to change the other motion to I read the 17th.
Yes.
Correct, and those are
and that's,
correct.
That's
Yeah,
right.
that's when we're meeting.
This is the first, not the second.
This is the
Yeah.
first, the other one.
Oh, we're
This is
having the
the-
same meeting, got it.
this is the
Got
15th.
it, okay.
December is an odd month because of the
Yes, we
holiday.
do, because of holiday, we have 2 meetings the same week. Okay, motion to table site plan, 48-2020, Mark Prenderville, tabled until the December 15th, 2020 planning board meeting, with submissions due by November 15th, 2020.
All right, I think I opened the public hearing already, so. Do we have a second?
Second it.
All right, any discussion on this tabling motion? Karen, can you call the vote for us, please?
Mr. Hunsinger?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Mr. Dixon?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. Valentine?
Yes.
Mr. Deeb?
Yes.
Mr. Traver?
Yes. All right, so now we return to our regular agenda. Under old business, the first item is Trevor Flynn, site plan 44-2020. Laura?
Okay, so this applicant requested some variances last week, received those variances from the zoning board in reference to setbacks. The applicant was given some guidance with the planning board at the first meeting to come back with some information about the stormwater and the planting plan, and I attempted to get it to you as quickly as possible when it was given to me, and so the applicant has that information available, and I'll pull up the screen.
Okay, thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. Trevor Flynn, representing Mr. and Mrs. Denoyer. And then, so did they get the site plans that we dropped off?
They got it electronically,
Okay.
and I do have, if the board members still wish to see it in hard copy, I have those in the folder here.
Okay. And we'll pull up the PDF too, and I can walk through. As mentioned, since our last meeting and the zoning board meeting, we have revisited the stormwater calculations, and the rain gardens, and provided a planting schedule as well. So pulling up that site plan. So after revisiting the stormwater, we've added a shallow grass depression here to capture the stormwater coming off the driveway itself, and then looked at a rain garden in this location, capturing the rest of the impervious area from the driveway and some of the roofs running down towards the site. And if you recall, this was also the problematic area with the existing driveway where all the runoff went straight into the street. We've also added a trench drain too along the side of the house that has enough capacity to take the stormwater runoff from the roof on this side of the roof down, prevents it from going down the hill. And that was technically all we were required to add, but we also looked at 2 additional rain gardens, one to the southeast, just for, more screening too from the road around the fire pit and hot tub area, and then also added in another rain garden, between the parking and the screen porch as well. So I think other than that, the top right, we have a planting schedule that's hard to see on the screen, but we do have the hard copies and the digital submission. as
And they
well
were
as-
emailed to us as well, so.
Okay. So I believe that's it.
Okay, questions, comments from members of the board?
Well, I have to say, I had a service call up the lake, and I went up Bay Road Way, and I happened to take a drive around that loop again, and I really like them trees. I didn't realize how many there were until you actually get in there. He really planted a lot of hemlocks in a gorgeous way of doing it. And, knowing the Denoyers, they don't do anything halfway, so, and I knew the previous owner of this house, so, and he really maintained it, and I'm actually, he probably, I don't remember seeing gutters, but if I did, I know he put them in dry wells, because that's just the way Bill did things, but,
Yeah.
I really think this project is gonna, really look out, nice, and I really liked the softness of the driveway coming in from the side instead of the big stone down, I never did like that, so, but, I'm picturing that house there, and that's really gonna look great, so thank you for rushing on that and getting this back out, but like I said, those hemlocks, there's quite a few there, and there's not any small ones, they were all huge.
Thank you.
Other comments, questions? All right, we do have a public hearing on this application. I'll remind the public watching us on the town YouTube channel that if they wish to comment, as I mentioned earlier, they should call 518-761-8225. Is there anyone in the audience that wanted to comment on this application this evening? Not seeing anyone. Are there any written comments,
There
Laura?
are no written comments.
Okay. No additional questions from members of the board?
Nope.
I'm not hearing the phone ringing, and they've had 40 minutes to think about it, so we'll go ahead and close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
Motion to approve site plan 44, 2020 Trevor Flynn, according to the draft resolution prepared by staff with the following. 1, waivers requested granted. 2, the approval is valid for 1 year from the date of approval. Applicant is responsible for requesting an extension of approval before the 1-year time frame has expired if the applicant has not yet filed for a building permit or commenced significant site work. 3, adherence to the items outlined in the follow-up letter sent with this resolution, including items A through K.
We have an approval motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion on the motion? Karen, can you call the vote for us, please?
Mr. Hunzinger?
Yes.
Mr. Valentine?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. Dixon?
Yes.
Mr. Deep?
Yes.
Mr. Traver?
Yes. You're all set. Good luck.
All right.
Hey.
Thank you.
Trevor, I know you have to do the engineer, but do you want the ranch house over there for the floor plans for the, yeah, take them off.
I'm all set. They can be
You sure?
recycled. Yep.
Okay. I was hoping you'd recycle, but you're gonna make us, huh?
Are you guys ever thinking of just digital submissions at some point?
We're trying. We're trying.
Sore subject.
Next, we move to the unapproved development portion of our agenda. The first item under unapproved development is Northway Self-Storage LLC, site plan modification 46-2020. Laura?
Okay. So this applicant proposes to update the entry area landscaping as the previous approved landscaping was removed. The area is approximately 200 feet in length and 45 feet in depth. The plans show a planting plan where some trees are to remain and new plantings to be installed, including dogwoods, junipers, summer sweet, black-eyed Susans, and lawn area.
Okay, thank you. Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. For the record, John Lapper with Brandon Ferguson from Environmental Design. So for this one and the next one that's coming up, they were both purchased by the same individual. They were in separate entities. They were both purchased recently within the last year or so. So the gentleman came in, they were kind of what was in front, even though obviously it was a buffer on the site plan, it was kind of scrubby. He didn't go to the trouble to go look and see that they were supposed to be there. So we knocked down what was scrubby and then heard from Craig Brown immediately, called me, and I prevailed on him to hire environmental design to do a landscape plan. So I think what we're presenting on both is nicer than what was there to begin with. Trees and shrubs and grass, and it'll all look a lot better. You know, better visibility for him, but just better for people driving by as well. So we're here to talk about both and hope you like them.
Okay,
That's
Thank
one
you.
of my pet peeves about.
What's that?
One of my pet peeves in storage units is they look so sterile and so,
Yeah.
and they
Yeah.
have good landscaping, and I hope you're listening, everybody. It's important that we clean it up a little bit because they have just become prolific
Yeah.
in the town of Queensbury.
Yeah.
Wow, I've never seen so many.
Yeah, it's amazing there's that much demand.
Wow.
Any comments on their modification?
I think it looks good.
Okay, yeah, I did too.
I like
So,
it.
so I made the mistake of doing what I frequently do when I do a site plan review, and I went to Google Maps, and Google Maps shows a beautiful, I mean, I later did the site plan, so I saw that it was scrubby stuff, but beautiful buffer that buffered the road from the project. And to look at what you proposed versus what was there, I think what's proposed leaves a lot to be desired, at least in my opinion.
What was proposed is significantly better than what they're proposing now?
No, what's proposed now is significantly worse than what was there before they took the vegetation out. I'm like David, and I frequently say this when we see a self-storage unit, I hate them all. If it were up to me, we wouldn't have any in the town of Queensbury, but I recognize that it's an allowed use, that there's a demand for it, and that there's a need for it. But how do we then mitigate the sterile look, you know? And I've mentioned at other meetings, one way to do it is what they did down at exit 10, right? Where on the gable ends, they put in brick. You know, we didn't ask him to put brick ends facing the road because there was going to be a nice existing buffer, which is now gone. So, you know, that's the trade-off. The trade-off is, you know, the aesthetics of the buildings versus the buffering. Now the buffering's gone. Now we're forced to deal with the aesthetics of the buildings or replace the buffer to something that's better than what was there, or at least what was there. So that's just my opinion, my position on both projects, really.
So would additional plantings
Yeah.
improve it to the
Yeah.
point of?
I think so.
So at some point later,
Yeah.
if we discuss about how they could add to the
Yeah.
planning?
So the Google Map shots, you can't see the buildings from the road. You
Yeah,
can't.
street view. That's
The
pretty
street
amazing.
view, you can't see the building. And so then when I went to the site plan, I can see, and I totally agree with you. Most of the stuff that was taken out was not very good. But collectively, it was a perfect.
And because it was so dense, it made a great buffer.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And that is something that's in the comprehensive land use plan, that, you know, we seem to, as a community, not as a planning board, really gotten away from, talking about, you know, natural vegetative buffers between, you know, the road and development. Not just commercial development, but along major thoroughfares, and that's what this is. It's a major thoroughfare in the town.
I had, you all set, Chris?
Yeah, I'm done, sorry.
All right.
I'm sorry, not this one, the Luzerne Road is the major thoroughfare.
I had, I think a while ago, once we had that one Michael O'Connor brought in for Bay Road before, I followed up with everybody on a very, like a 10-page
Yeah.
study report that I had done for, with my employer. Part of that whole thing is going to the point that you made, in which I tried to make to Michael, is that we don't just sit there and say, okay, let's just cover everything up with buffering and landscaping and then hide something because it's ugly. Take the thing that's ugly and make it presentable. And that's something that comes about with certain standards that we don't have. And that's played out in communities all across the areas. I mean, you can go from here to Fort Anwar and take Route 4 up all over, and everybody just plops, they just plop up units all along, put a fence around it.
Kind of like mushrooms, they just,
And one of the things about it, you don't have to do anything with it. That's what I
Right.
said to Michael before, not to pick on that site, but you're not running sewer, you're not running water, you're not putting electricity in there. You get a cheap piece of land and you're gonna make out on it, in the long run. And not to say that as a body that we don't want anybody to get a good return on their investment or something. But in the same regard, you're putting up something that is a reflection upon the community that you live in. And I think that the pictorial stuff that I had put in that stuff that I showed you was not only maybe some planning stuff, but it was done by the trade organization for the self-storage units. And they had come up, just as Chris said, what Cookie did down at exit 10 was to put a front on those. Any front that faces a public roadway that's visible to the public, make it look like something that you would want to see on your own street of houses. They put false roof peaks on them, stone coverage. Obviously, you can't do anything with the sides. Those are the entry points to the storage units. But that side that faces, it should be reflective just as if it was a residential street that we live on. Not just to plunk something down and say, okay, I'm going to get whatever I'm going to get out of it, and not care for the appearance. Now, I don't know, is it necessary to consider, do you think about taking this up as a use that has to go through, that's approved under a special use permit? And by that way, you have certain standards in there. Or do you call in for this under site plan that it has standards under site plan that have to be met? And you call for that, not just to say flood landscaping on it to cover it up, but make it look presentable. That's just my thought to it.
Well, I think that has to be addressed. I don't see if there's going to be many more in the future. I can't envision that.
well, that's what we said a couple of years ago.
Yeah, right.
If there are, I agree with you.
Replacement of old ones.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
if they
well, that's
replace old ones, but if they're grandfathered in, it's tough to do anything with it now. But I do believe that we need to set a standard, like you said, for any future ones that do come in.
Well, in this case, they have an existing approved
Right,
site plan, and we're just dealing with the
Right.
buffer.
now I understand.
We're just talking.
Yeah.
Right.
We chit-chat.
Right. Well, that's fine, and certainly we can address that with future site plans, or try to, when they come in.
That's one way.
But for now,
What
what do we want to do with regard to the buffer? They've modified the approved buffer, replaced the approved buffer. If we don't like what they've done, do we have specific requirements that we want to request of them to enhance the buffer? If so, we need to be specific.
Well, I think, again, go to the one we had with Bay Road, and we had a long discussion back and
Yeah.
forth with the applicant's attorney and with the landscape designer, as calling out for exactly what type of landscaping you wanted and where. And if you've seen that, I'm gonna put it on your shoulder.
Uh-oh.
But, and if you've.
Well, they had an approved plan, but I don't think, that didn't include landscaping because it was already there, basically, right?
Well, the frontage was part of the no cut.
Yeah.
There was going to be no cut buffer in the front of the building.
We also have a public hearing on this application. Is there anyone observing us on the YouTube channel that wants to comment? And while we continue discussion, I'll remind folks of the telephone number. That is area code 518-761-8225. And ask Laura if there are any written comments.
There are no written comments.
Okay, is there anyone in the audience that wanted to comment on this site plan? Not seeing anyone.
So what would you like to see, Chris?
I mean, if I had my way, I would just ask for more trees. ask for more trees.
So Laura did give me a heads up today that we might be asked to put some more trees in.
Yeah.
And we have authority to put some more trees in. So Brandon can discuss what we have there and what would be appropriate to augment.
Well, let's hear it.
What's there?
Yeah, so right now, we are kind of proposing leaving the existing large trees that are remaining there and cleaning up around and replanting around the signs and around the transformer on this site. As far as the existing trees, there's a bunch of oaks along Cary Road. We're proposing adding another one to kind of create some spacing, kind of look between the oaks. And then there are some white pines behind them that are going to remain. As far as supplemental plantings we could add, our thought process would be to supplement in between those oaks with some kind of shorter evergreen trees.
Can you be specific about numbers that you would do?
So I would say, you know, the spacing between those trees right now is close to 40 feet. So we would probably look at adding like 2 or 3 trees in between them, kind of smaller evergreens.
In between the existing oaks,
In between the existing oaks.
in line, just a straight line again?
We could push them back a little bit, you know, kind of push them back. They'd be spaced in between the oaks to kind of fill in the gaps. So if you push back, you know, a little bit further into that buffer. One of the things is, he wants to plant most of this lawn to be able to mow around everything, so we don't want to do a bunch of little plantings everywhere. Want to make it somewhat easy to kind of maintain the area. So if we did little clusters of plants in between and maybe set back a little bit, would be the idea.
Okay.
Question on the, why'd you pick white pine?
Those are existing.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good choice. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, they're good size, 13-inch, 14-inch.
Yeah, there are some existing trees there.
Yeah, all the
Yeah,
large
survivors
trees that were there, he left. He really just went in there and essentially brush hogged it.
Yeah.
Took out all the brush, the smaller stuff. A lot of it was like, you know, 1-2 inch diameter trees are the biggest.
And I'm sure if his site is anything like right next door, there was a lot of,
Yeah,
You know,
a lot of
just-
really
yeah.
small stuff.
Yeah.
Virginia
Most of
creeper,
it's
is that what we were
deciduous.
talking about?
yeah. I didn't see any of that, but I also wasn't really looking
Yeah,
for it. I was
seems to be just
more
about
looking for
everywhere.
trees, yeah.
May I just ask, so you're talking about scattering some evergreens in between the oaks. What types of evergreens specifically?
Or what caliber would it?
I mean, I don't remember I think the town has kind of a minimum caliper for a lot of their trees. Height-wise, I would think something around like 4 or 5 feet. We do, for planting purposes, you know, they grow a little bigger, obviously. We're looking at something that's full growth, closer to like 8 or 9. The thing is, these buildings are kind of set a little bit lower than the road too, so I don't think we have to go real high to kind of block and create that buffer. You know, they're kind of sitting down below the road. A tall tree is probably going to actually do less if it grows up too high, and then you'll just see
Well,
underneath the
what
canopy.
size, are you saying 5 foot,
Yeah,
which would grow to?
Ground, they're 2 feet off the ground, and I'm like, that's not what I wanted. I want 4 feet out of the ground. You know, good places, that Lockhart and Loop, those hemlocks are gorgeous.
they might be a little big, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and hemlocks would be an option here if we wanted something to grow a little higher.
Hemlocks are a lot better than white pine.
Yeah,
And they're gonna be a filler tree, they're gonna grow and bush out. And white pine, man, they are just a skinny growth.
yeah, I think I would
They lose their branches in the
Yeah.
bottom.
I would say a hemlock would be a better filler in between. We kind of put a couple hemlocks kind of set back in between those oak trees.
How many would you talk?
I would say, we kind of spaced it. There's 5 spaces.
1,
Two
2,
a
3,
space.
4, 5.
Okay, 2,
5.
You go 3 new hemlocks?
3 or 5?
I heard 3.
And each open.
Yeah, between the,
I was thinking 2.
Well, if you look at it, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, if you're gonna set them back. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 oaks. So if you go in between the oaks, and then you go over to the, you know, toward the entranceway, there would be 5, so I'm happy with 5. You happy with 5?
5 is good.
5 total?
5 trees?
Well, no, hemlocks. We're just talking
Brandon
hemlocks.
said 2 per space, so that would be 10.
Okay, so you
Yeah,
want 2
5
Oh,
spaces,
2
right?
between
Sorry,
each,
okay.
between
Well, you
the,
said there's 40-foot separations.
Yeah. And the
And
one
they
that-
bush out quite a bit, hemlocks, give them a little room to grow, we'll space them out.
Yeah, and don't get those little gallon jugs, okay? I don't wanna see little gallon jugs.
So we're, no pun intended, scrubbing the evergreens?
Well, the evergreens are,
one-
we're gonna do a hemlock, they are
Hemlocks are the
evergreens.
evergreen.
They're evergreens, yeah. Hemlocks are evergreens.
Scrapping the white pine and going with hemlock.
Well, the white pine are existing, so
All right,
he'll just leave those there as well.
So there'd be
Got
a
it.
total of 10.
got it.
All right, anything else on landscape? All right, I guess we're ready to hear the motion.
Ready?
Close the public hearing?
You gotta close it?
Oh, thank you. Yes, we will close the public hearing.
Motion to approve site plan modification 46, 2020, Northway Self-Storage LLC. Per the draft provided by staff, conditioned upon the following. 1, waivers request granted. 2, the approval is valid for 1 year from the date of approval. Applicant is responsible for requesting an extension of approval before the 1-year time frame has expired if the applicant has not yet applied for a building permit or commenced significant site work. 3, adherence to the items outlined in the follow-up letter sent with this resolution, including items A through G and H, new plantings to include 2 hemlocks to be placed between the oak trees for a total of 10 hemlocks.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second.
I'm going to request you add or confirm that it would add 5 feet or taller as a height, so we don't get what Brad asked us.
Okay, amended resolution to include 5-foot, 2 tall, two 5-foot hemlocks to be placed between oak trees for a total of 10 hemlocks.
I'll second the amended motion.
All right, we have an amended motion, it's been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Karen, can you go ahead and call the vote for us, please?
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Mr. Valentine?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. Hunziker?
Yes.
Mr. Beach?
Yes.
Mr. Trader?
Yes. We're all set.
Thank you, let's do that again.
All right.
You could probably cut right to the chase.
Should we just say
I
ditto?
don't have to clean up.
John, would you say ditto?
Ditto.
Okay.
Next, we have West Side Storage, site plan modification 47-2020. This is also under unapproved development. So, hello again.
If the minutes could reflect the comments we made at the beginning of the last application, they are the same here as they were collected by the same individual around the same time and cleared at the same time. And Brandon has prepared a planting plan. This one's a little different because there were some other trees that were removed by an adjacent neighbor here in the back, and those are being added as well.
Okay, so I understand you're willing to enhance the landscaping. We just need to figure out
sir.
how many and where and how to go about doing that.
Your turn.
We also have, I want to alert the public that we also have a public hearing on this application, and if you wish to call in for comment, that number is area code 518-761-8225. So we'll open that public hearing and ask the board to open it up for discussion.
Shall we do the same or just go, does this require different?
It's just the numbers and the specific location.
Yeah, this one too, as well, I can add, we are already kind of enhancing the buffer a little bit when you can, on the rendering there, you kind of see when you first pull in the driveway off to the right there, we're kind of building up around a few existing trees with some lower shrubs as well. So it's a little bit different than the last one. But we are looking at saving a number of trees and in that area, kind of creating a planting bed.
Okay, we just need to be specific in terms of type and numbers.
Yeah, I mean, this one, there's not as many existing trees left as there were
Right.
on the other one.
There are not, yep.
Yeah.
So is there something you want to propose, Brandon?
Yeah, I mean, I would kind of propose something similar with hemlocks, and I would propose, and we were showing that maple there near kind of the road, and there's an existing, I actually think it's a poplar tree, you can kind of see the little green circle there in the back. I'm thinking a cluster of hemlocks in there. It's not quite as big of an area as, we had on the other site
but
Granted, we're gonna need a specific
I'm
number.
thinking like 5 hemlocks in that area,
So,
kind of staggered and spread out
for
in
the
there.
compromise, we'll say 7.
7.
I like 7, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, nice round
How
number.
much, well,
And what about height?
Well, it's primary.
same 5-foot height?
yeah,
Yeah, there you go.
exactly, it's a primary number,
There you go,
right?
what the heck?
How could you not like it?
But so is 5.
Unless we go to 9.
Hey, those Austrian pines, do we call them scrub pines? Are they long needles?
Are we proposing Austrian pines in this?
No, I just
Oh,
saw
okay.
them on the plans. I thought, what do we call it? I always call it a scrub pine. That's kind of what's over on that side.
Yeah, yeah.
That's because that's pine barrens, that's a sandy soil, so
Right.
they naturally grow in that part of town.
Yeah, they grow out on the Cape a lot too, but just not as tall as they do here.
But they also are, they're also at, anybody has Christmas tree farms, Austrian pines are in there a lot.
Oh, are they?
So they're not like a junk pine, but, you know.
So I guess if you don't prune them, they'd look pretty nice there as a Christmas tree, but once they get up to a certain point, it's like, no, it's interesting.
I mean,
No,
there's
I can see the confusion of, you know, of just cleaning it up and, not knowing why the buffer was why we had it there, so.
Yeah.
I mean, you have about 150 feet of road frontage, and it's about, you know, it was about 50 feet deep, so there's a lot of space in there for, you know, I don't think 7 trees is outrageous.
Okay.
There's certainly plenty of room for them.
You said you wanted to cluster them?
So we'd spread them out, you know, but kind of in that general area between that other planting bed we're proposing and
Yeah,
the right side.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of spread them out in there, space them out, stagger them a little bit.
yeah,
And bear in mind, we're looking at buffering, that's what we want.
yeah.
Yeah, yep,
And you're still gonna keep the proposed red oak?
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah, that'll work.
I'm just surprised you don't use rhododendrons or something that gets you a splash of color, at least somewhere along the line in there.
I think, you know, rhododendrons,
leggy, but it's a good one.
I mean, that could be a possibility as well. I mean, they don't, obviously not gonna get as big as a hemlock and maybe not cover as much of an area,
A
but
nice crimson king. Deep purple leaves on it.
Crimson King maple.
Yeah.
It's just nice to have some interest. Everything's shaping up to be
Salt spray doesn't-
scrub pines, white pines.
and yeah. I think we are proposing some color as well around the sign and stuff. You know, we got the red twig dogwood here, we got irises, and we got some more kind of perennial type plants around the sign and that on the other side there in that little planting bed. So I mean, both if you want something with more color, I mean, obviously you probably prefer some kind of evergreen, which a rhododendron is.
Yeah. Well, and that's why I'm thinking even with the, not the arborvitae, but the hemlocks that you're proposing, if you stagger them, and you're filling in between with rhododendron, you end up with a natural fence that gives you some color, gives you some interest. You can use rhododendrons, small leaf rhododendrons, so you get color for probably a good 3-4 weeks in the spring, which would actually improve your property too.
And what if we did something like 5 hemlocks and 3 rhododendrons kind of spread out in there?
Between, you want the rhododendron between the hemlocks, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, and you want to put 3 between each hemlock? 3 rhododendrons?
Well, the rhododendrons can get pretty big as well. I don't think you
Well,
want
okay, so
to.
if we do
close.
7 hemlocks, you're gonna need
5 rhododendrons.
5 rhododendrons.
I was saying 5 and 3, but
We got you covered.
7 and 5, that's a good number, good number.
Any other comments or questions? We're gonna have a draft motion here in a moment.
We didn't talk at all about the landscaping on the side.
Well, that is something too, and I thought you were gonna take it before when you had mentioned that there
Yeah.
wasn't much on this one.
Can I,
And,
can I add something to that one? So there was a requirement in the previous approval in regards to the road that you can see on the west side of the property. And so I had identified this issue with the applicant, and when they were updating the front entrance, and I said, you know, there's some trees that are required, and so those are the trees that have been required on that
Oh,
side.
okay. That was required on the prior site plan approval? Yeah, okay.
So we okay?
I'm okay with it. I don't have that, I don't have a strong feeling
I think we're all
about that.
Yeah.
Set? Okay, motion to approve site plan modification 4-2020. West
Sorry.
Side Storage.
I'm going to interrupt you because you need to close your public hearing.
Oh, okay. Are there any written comments?
No written comment.
All right, we'll close the public hearing. Sorry about that.
No
We're
problem.
ready.
Motion to approve site plan modification 4-2020, West Side Storage. Per the draft provided by staff, conditioned upon the following. 1, waivers request granted. 2, the approval is valid for 1 year from the date of approval. Applicant is responsible for requesting an extension of approval before the 1-year time frame has expired if the applicant has not yet applied for a building permit or commenced significant site work. 3, adherence to the items outlined in the follow-up letter sent with this resolution, including items A through G. And H, new plantings to include 7 5-foot hemlocks to be staggered in the buffer area and 5 rhododendrons to be placed between the hemlocks.
Second.
We have an approval motion made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Karen, can you call the vote for us, please?
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Mr. Dixon?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. Valentine?
Yep.
Mr. Deeb?
Yes?
Mr. Hunziker?
Yes.
Mr. Traver?
Yes. You're all set.
I just want to thank you guys for working with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Again, in our effort to not have to clean the podium, here we are.
Next, we have AREC 34 LLC U-Haul Site Plan 4-2020 and Special Use Permit 1-2020. Laura?
Okay, so this applicant recently received information about the change of zone that allowed interior self-storage. And in that case, they were able to move forward to the site plan. So I'll repeat some of it. They're using a portion of the building at 69,120 square feet for interior storage of 661 units. In addition, there are other U-Haul related operations. This includes a U-Box storage, a dispatch and return area, a U-Haul store, and boxes, rental vehicles, and trailer processing. They also have exterior storage that includes 12 self-storage buildings for 216 units. When the board previously saw this, they identified some concerns on the site, and the applicant, I understand, is prepared to discuss those items this evening.
Okay, thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. This time, we have representatives of U-Haul to address specific questions, but Brandon did submit a revised site plan after the last time we were here. We were delayed, as Laura said, because we had to deal with the town board on the rezoning for the interior self-storage in the commercial light industrial zone, and we had to address the garage door issue, and that got settled with Craig Brown. So we're ready to move forward with the site plan and the special use permit. Do you want to talk about the changes?
Yeah, so I know it's kind of been a while since we've been in front of you guys with this, with everything that's been going on. But we did make some changes. I know one of the big requests from the board was to remove those outdoor storage buildings along Dix Ave, up in this area, up in here, which we did. We got rid of those up there and moved all the outdoor access self-storage into that one kind of cluster there within the existing parking lot. We came back with some updated elevation views of the buildings and renderings. Some of the parking lot changed around a little bit. We clarified whereabouts they're planning on queuing and storing the vehicles that are rentals that are going to be going in and out. They don't store them for very long, obviously. They're kind of, the goal is to have them constantly on the road, not sitting there.
Right.
So they're not long-term storage. And, let's see where to go. Oh, those are the elevations. So elevation views, we provide them for all the sides of it. We provided renderings. Overall, the plans, the plan is still to use it as interior self-storage with the exterior self-storage building. So, a whole lot of changes, but.
Okay, questions, comments from members of the board?
877 units.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's amazing, isn't it?
661 inside, which is an increase of what, from 641?
That's correct. There was a slight increase in
Yeah.
that. The layout changed a little bit. I think it's about the same square footage, but they just reworked the space.
I mean, climate control ones, I can really see, there must be a need for those. I mean, people love those. But 877 and 216 are gonna be outside. Well, one of the questions I had was, if we go back to the other, the site plan. The storage units are up going toward Quaker, were they in the middle? And then you got some empty space in the bottom. Is there any reason you didn't want to put them down?
So that empty space in the bottom is for future outdoor storage of like boats and recreational vehicles underneath a covered top. But that's not a permitted use in the zone, so it's not part of our approval yet.
You're just reserving it.
We're reserving that.
Well, my point is, you know how I feel on storage units. I guess you got my opinion. That's why you poor guys came up after. You know, we're loaded to bear, and here you are.
Dave, the difference is this is a commercial light industrial zone, so we're next to the auto yard on the other side.
Yes, John, I understand that, but storage, this is a visible corner. Very visible corner. One of the primary visible corners in all the town of Queensbury. And it's just got to look good. People come into the town, they're gonna see this is the first thing they're gonna see. And it goes back to what Mike was saying about appearance on this, and I hate to be a stickler on it, but.
So we did add a whole bunch of maple trees as street trees along.
Well, I'm talking about the building itself.
And we have berms and planting beds, and we're here to talk about that along all those.
But that's not gonna hide the building. I mean,
Well, they're along the self-storage units that are outside now, planting beds and berms.
so they'll partially obstruct the building. I just think they've gotta be done tastefully to go there.
We do have a public hearing on this application as well, and I'll remind the public again, if you wish to call in on this, the number is area code 518-761-8225, and ask Laura, are there any written comments?
There are no written comments.
Okay, thank you. We don't have an audience anymore, so we don't have to worry about them.
I'd like to make a comment. Thank you for making those changes. Really, I appreciate you taking them off over there on the Dix Avenue. You know, that, and you tucked them behind the building, which really, really helped. There is quite a bit of land, well, I don't want to say quite a bit of land, but there's a good grass area there on the Quaker Road side, and I just was looking for the. Do we have a planting on this?
Yeah, I think that's on sheet 2 of that plan set. Be the
C2?
I think that was discussed at one of the meetings before, and Brad, I think both you and I had mentioned about the gradient that comes off of Quaker. And that, and talking about, and I haven't looked at it yet to see what plantings, but I know we did talk about something going back in that area. So I don't know if you can comment on that, because I was looking on here too to see if, when you're saying sheet 2.
Oh, actually, nope, I'm sorry about that, it's actually sheet 3, sorry. Sheet 2 is the existing, yeah, so.
Okay. 3 of 3?
That. Yeah, so if you go, so what we're proposing is a number of red maples. Are they red maples?
Yes, they are.
They are.
7
Yep.
of them.
A number of red maples along Quaker, and then extending a little bit in front of these parking areas here. I think there, at one point we actually had a building here as well that we removed. And then closer to the building, we're proposing a little bit lower type plants. We have winterberry, which, you know, can get sizable, as well as, what else are we proposing there? I don't remember.
Not that I'm interrupting you, but some of the trees on that, I think they call them like a teardrop, or a pear tree. I don't know, but I planted one in my house.
Did you get any pears?
No, but the thing grows like 4 feet a year.
Wow.
It's amazing. I mean, I planted it and now it's like this big around, and you know, I've only been there 3 months. No, I'm only kidding you. But
Like a willow tree.
But it really, it drops its trees, but they have the same trees up on that, they're, they look like a teardrop, and for some reason, I don't even remember what, there's some that are, I have two of them. I have one that looks like a teardrop and then one that's, looks like a cone. But they grow immensely and quickly.
You're saying there's ones there now on this corner?
Well, no,
Oh,
there were some up there in that parking lot, in the curb cuttings and that. Some
Oh, in the
trees
curb
that
cuts.
were- Don't quote me, they might be back, but I know they're in that corner, because I used to go to the car shows up there.
There are some almost like crabapple maybe trees that go along the entranceway, to the right of the plant, they're like a red.
yeah, there's stuff over there, correct? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no, these aren't crabapple, they call them like a teardrop or,
Did it get white flowers on it in the
Yeah.
spring?
but yes,
That's a Bradford pear then, yeah.
we'll take Bradford pear. But they grow, I'm just like amazed at how much it grows every year.
They turn red.
The leaves do, or the pear?
Yeah, it looks beautiful in the spring, it's all nice and white.
Yeah,
In front of the main building, on all those curb islands,
Similar
there
to
are,
Bay Road, huh?
maybe it is that tree that you're speaking of, but there, our plan is to keep those there and
Good.
just keep trimming them off as they grow.
The one building, and I gotta say, I'm gonna sound like Brad in here, I do wanna commend you guys on the changes, because I remember I was strongly voiced in opposition to what was there as far as the outbuildings and, the appearance. And this area right here where the red maples are going. So, I wanna commend you on that, the use is there, the use is what it is as far as those self-storage units, they're not the most favorable. But there is a wide expanse of property there that could wind up being left unused at all for a number of years if something didn't go in there. I think that this board and staff go a long way into looking at color schemes, signage, things like that. And the board has always been, since I've been here, hearing about different color schemes on something like a Walmart or, other buildings like that. Going on a long exercise. So I think that the buildings there, if they've going through with staff and looking at them and looking at the colors, I mean, that's a big building. There are a lot of units in it.
Oh, yeah.
But I think that's gonna be important as far as, is that appearance? What do you do? That is gonna be critical for the use of this building. And those other interior, I like again, not that I'm thrilled by those outside storage units, all right, but to have them where they are in one long length rather than hit and miss here and there. The only question I did come up with when you said you did remove the one I asked about, you removed those buildings. I didn't look, I'm trying to look in here and see what is that now? Is that just gonna be a grassed area?
Where which?
Right
make sure
along-
I got that
right
building.
Along Dix Avenue.
Yeah.
Show where that was.
Oh, up in this area here?
Yep.
Yeah, so that's gonna be a, kind of,
It's gonna be
You
like
can
we
explain better.
shunt our rental equipment, so we did add some landscaping, but it's gonna be mainly our rental fleet lined up for customer view and then dispatch that area when we rent the truck.
And can you just say your name for the
Oh,
record,
sorry,
please?
my name's Ben Acorn, I'm with U-Haul Company of Eastern New York.
Okay, you brought it up, Mike, and I hate to be the devil's advocate, but yeah, the appearance is so important. And we had a fiasco on Quaker Road with colors at one point. And not that this isn't attractive, but the orange really stands out. And I know that's U-Haul colors. But when I first read about the green roof, I got, oh my God, and then I saw the rendering, and that looks nice. And I would like to see a more muted color, earthy tone than orange, so it doesn't glare out at you. And there was, I looked at the drawing, you had over on Main Street, you've got that big canopy, which you propose to put here also. I gotta say, I'm not a fan of that. That to me just glares. It just doesn't look good. And I don't know if that's something you can deal with. And I don't want to say add cost, but if there's a way to permanently put, not permanent, but maybe a type of building that looks more attractive than just that canopy that sits there. Those are the two things that I'm concerned about. If these colors were more earth tone or more, sound muted, I think that the building would look really good. So, again, that's just my opinion.
These are just architectural symbols.
So,
Yes, they are.
See, I don't have a problem with the orange, I don't like the teal.
So here we go. Geez, I liked it.
I don't like the teal color.
You don't?
No. I like the, and I don't have the paint colors out in front of me, the green colors I think is nice, but I don't know if that goes with orange. But,
No, anyway.
It's hard for us as a board to
Am I correct that the
pick colors, you know?
roofing is existing? Is that teal color is an existing roof color? So
Yeah.
that's an existing condition.
Oh, well.
Can you adjust the canopy a little bit? Is there an alternative to that?
As in color or?
Or just the canopy itself? I'm not a fan of that canopy at all.
I mean, that is our standard, just to protect our team from the elements when they're doing, returning a truck.
Is there a place that you can put it that's not so visible?
Based on where our showroom is, that's kind of where it fits for the flow of our equipment and keeping our team from walking 1,000 steps a day, getting to and from the return area. There may be another option. I haven't done one myself, so I would have to get some more detail on that.
Rather than eliminate it, we could replace it. We put it somewhere else on the property. I don't know. Again, I don't know if the rest of the board feels the way. These are just my cupcakes, and I'm only one guy.
You mean the canopy on that piece that I was just saying about where the building was removed? Is that what you're?
I know, I'm trying to see, I can't seem to find it here on the drawing.
Yeah, if you go back to sheet 3, I'll point that out. Yeah, up in that area, yeah, she's got it right here. It's up in here.
Okay, yeah.
This is Dix Ave over here. This is the area where the building was removed. The buildings were removed. So in this area here, this is their showroom and their hitch area. This is and here's their shunting area where people come in, pick up their vehicle and leave.
So it's
Over
not
here
just-
is where they pull in to return it, and then his crew comes out, cleans the vehicle, does what they need to do, and then heads out.
And that's where the canopy.
And that's where the canopy is.
You
It's-
can't use a permanent, not a permanent, like just a roof.
An awning.
An awning, a carport
Yeah.
type of thing with wood on it or something instead of the canopy.
Looking for more of a permanent structure than what's
Yeah,
there.
more of a permanent structure.
Fixed off the existing building.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would flow better
Right.
than what's on there.
I'm sure.
It looks like a temporary tent,
Right. Oh,
Yeah.
and that's what bothers me.
So if it was a permanent structure with 4 posts and a real roof?
Yeah, that would look, it could be blended in and look painted, look nice.
Yeah, I'm sure we can make that happen.
All right, that, I'll acquiesce in the colors if you do that. How's that?
This isn't a trade.
Obstinate orange?
I tell you, it's not a real big camp either. If that wind's blowing a little bit, they're still gonna get snowy and wet, so.
Ben's agreed to that, so that will make that a
Good.
permanent structure instead.
Good.
I have a question. Between 2 and 3, all right?
2.5.
Thanks, Mike.
Between 2 and 3
Wait.
what, Brad? I'm
Oh,
sorry.
is it 1 and 3. 1 and 2. It's in between 1 and 2. With a 3 at the end. All right, on number 1, where I had we had you move that stuff and you got your,
It's permanent.
you took the parking away closest to Dix Avenue.
Yep.
All right, but on 2-3, they're showing there.
Yeah. 2 of 3 is showing removals plan. So that's
So
showing
this is the
existing
removal
conditions,
plan.
And we're showing there's a few islands that are getting removed, just to make like the shunting work in that area. They're gonna remove that island.
So this is what we're going by, one.
One is the site plan, two is just existing conditions. and
All
two
right,
is
I just saw the two, and I wasn't sure, and I was looking for the removal, all right, so thank you. I personally, this is a big U-Haul, probably one of the biggest ones I've seen. And I think it's gonna look nice over there. I'm just happy that we're actually utilizing that parking lot for something, because that is just been a weed tumbler for years. And, I know this was the first big superstore that came in, and we just thought people were gonna drive in from Montana and go shopping there, but, it didn't happen. But I really think, I mean, and you've been using it, and it, you know, and I see the trucks there, and it's just so nice to actually see something there and move, and really, Main Street, Main Street doesn't really bother me that much. I like the colors. The colors were, you brought in some more, you know, tans to flow in with the oranges. I really think, and that's a busy little spot over there. But this, with the indoor-outdoor, this is quite a huge venture, and I'm looking forward to seeing it go over there. So thank you for your time and patience, especially for all you had to do to get in the building with the codes. So, yeah, if you could do something with that canopy, I'm not a big fan of it, but, you know, I understand why to need it, but I would get something that, geez, make it big enough so you can get the trucks in so they can be comfortable, and even have down some roll-down shears or something for the bad weather. I mean, protect our employees, okay?
What are you gonna do with, is Main Street staying? I mean, you're not,
It is, yep.
it is, you're gonna have both places.
We are, and we're hoping this will just take some of the burden off that store.
Well, you're pretty crowded over
We're
there
outgrowing the space.
on Main Street, yeah.
Can I make a suggestion real quick, Bill?
Yep.
So I'm gonna put my landscaper hat on here for a moment. So you're planting a lot of red maples along, looks like 4 on maybe Dix Avenue, if I'm reading it right?
Both sides. Yep.
What we're seeing in other places of the town, especially with hemlocks, and obviously these aren't hemlocks, but if one species starts to die out, you may lose all of them. Would you consider, instead of doing all red maples, maybe you alternate with a ginkgo or something? Just so if a blight comes through, I know personally I lost a maple tree to leaf wilt. And, you know, it was a beautiful tree, beautiful specimen, but I lost that, and I actually lost a red maple in close proximity to it. So I would only throw that out, as well as the closer you get to the roads, I've rarely seen maples do well the closer you get to the roads, because we use a lot of salt around here. So if you just want to...
Don't nod.
Yeah, and we can, I don't see any reason we can't switch, you know, do every other. The red maples look good. I mean, we can definitely switch them out with something else if you guys prefer. Yeah, I mean, if you prefer any type of hardwood, let us know, but we can, I think we're more than willing to switch out species.
I think that's a really good point, yeah.
I just...
We've never really talked about that before, but
No, and you
it
want
makes
something
sense.
maintenance-free long-term. You don't want to be out there replanting every 5 years. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't.
We're not replanting every 5 years.
Yeah, right?
You get that, David?
So you wanna use, alternate, you wanna use maple and, what else?
I would say just another code compliant species.
There you go.
Okay, yeah, that works, yeah.
Code compliant hardwood species?
Deciduous, you mean, rather than.
Deciduous?
Yeah, I just don't want to get caught identifying a species that's an invasive and not knowing that it's invasive, and I apologize, I don't know them all.
Let's go get some burning bushes.
Try those dogwoods that I have now.
It's like a Japanese knotweed along.
We haven't received any phone calls. Are there any written comments, Laura?
There are no written comments.
Okay, we close the public hearing.
Could you comment on the lighting plan?
On the road.
How close are they?
What's that?
Can you comment on the lighting plan?
So the lighting plan relatively simple. The poles right now are 40 feet in height.
Yeah.
We know we have to lower them, so they're gonna lower them and replace the fixtures on with LED fixtures. I think our foot candles ended up being like an average 2, which is a little under what the code requires.
So that was what was missing, was the average of the site. So that's helpful, because it wasn't on the lighting plan itself. So I think that may be what Chris is asking for. Is
It should
Yeah.
be on that lighting plan. I didn't bring.
Well, it's really hard to read, because.
Yeah, I think it's up in the little table up
Yeah.
top. It says average is about 2.
Okay,
And with this type of use, you know, you're not getting, I think 2 is a reasonable number for people to be able to see and get around. There's not a lot of traffic of people moving around there.
well, I mean, that's an old store, you know, back in, when that was built, we put the light poles
Yeah, lights.
40 feet in the air, and,
Obviously,
you know,
they
wanted to
prefer-
light up the whole world,
Yeah.
you know,
They're
at
not
the same
asking
time.
just because they're there, they're doing the right thing.
Yeah,
Them down.
yeah, thank you.
Anything else?
No, I think this is a nice project that you put together.
Yeah.
It is good
It's
to
gonna
see
be a
that
big
space
improvement.
being utilized
I
again.
agree.
It's been blank for, I mean,
You
set.
guys were pretty clear that we had to change it from when we started. so
Yeah.
here we are.
Yeah, it's gonna be a nice one.
Yeah,
So are we ready for a motion?
I think so. Well, I'm not sure about my amendments here, but we'll give it a shot. Motion to approve site plan 4-2020 and special use permit 1-2020 for AREC 34 LLC U-Haul, according to the draft resolution prepared by staff with the following. 1, waivers requested, granted. 2, the approval is valid for 1 year from the date of approval. Applicant is responsible for requesting an extension of approval before the 1-year time frame has expired if the applicant has not yet applied for a building permit or commenced significant site work. 3, adherence to the items outlined in the follow-up letter sent with this resolution, including items A through K, and L, canopy to be replaced, can I say permanent structure? With a permanent structure to blend in with the other buildings. And M, maple trees to be spaced between another code-compliant species. Tree.
Deciduous tree.
Space. All, yeah.
Okay, are to be, okay, maple trees to be alternated between code-compliant deciduous, you want deciduous species. Okay,
Second.
Wait,
What?
you mentioned the canopy, right?
Yeah.
Sorry.
I'm still second.
All right, we have a motion made and seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Yeah, I just want to clarify, the board often discusses the color scheme of a building, and you touched upon it, and I just want to confirm before you go forward, is there anything else that, with the color scheme that's being proposed and the facade and things like that, that have, that you've discussed, are you adding anything?
Chris and I disagreed, so I guess we're caught in the middle.
Okay,
We just, I gave in on that concession.
Well, you got your
No,
canopy.
it looks good. I just like muted tones, but I'm fine with that. It's not glaring.
We're counting on.
Yeah, I don't think it's garish either.
It's not garish.
I don't know, sometimes I think you have to look at it as its own standalone project. And clearly, this site is a standalone site, and,
Yeah.
you
And
know,
those are
It's
U-Haul
commercial.
poles.
yeah, and it's commercial.
But
and-
unless we were to go to certain design standards that were town-wide,
Well,
we wouldn't have anything to
yeah.
stand on because we wind up with our own things and our personal preferences,
Right.
and that's dangerous.
Well, we do have standards in the comprehensive plan
I'm happy with
for
it.
different sections of town.
If Brad's happy, then it's a
Oh,
go.
we should go ahead then. Okay.
Is there any other discussion?
If
on the
Brad's
motion?
happy, then,
In
yeah.
the staff notes, there was an issue about sign size.
correct, that'll come back at a later date, not necessarily to this board, it'll come to the zoning board, because they need several sign variances, so those will occur at a later time. And they're not part of this project, they're not part of your approval, so.
Anything else on the motion? Karen, can you call the vote for us, please?
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. Dixon?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Mr. Valentine?
Yes.
Mr. Hunsinger?
Yes.
Mr. Deeb?
Yes.
Mr. Traver?
Yes.
Okay, good luck, fellas.
Good luck.
I want to take a picture of you guys standing up. This must be like $4,000 an hour. Hey, do you want any of these prints there?
They're gonna have to read.
You gotta,
You're gonna reprint them anyway.
Yeah, well,
You want
I
the
didn't-
color
I didn't
ones
get
anyway?
the ones from 2 years
You
ago.
want the color ones?
Can you use them?
Yeah, can you use them?
Yeah,
you're welcome. Good luck.
Okay.
Before we adjourn, I just wanted to mention that, as Laura reminded us, she's going to be doing some training next month on workplace violence, and I think she's hoping to do it at our second meeting next month, so we'll do that then. Also, immediately before the board meeting, the planning board meeting on the 17th, there's a technology committee meeting, and everyone's welcome to attend that. I'll send out a reminder at some point during the month, and if there's nothing else, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We stand adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Laura?